having pride here in the center of our town and having young kids see that they don't have to go to New York or Philadelphia to experience a Pride Festival. They can come here.
We've had either the first or second highest concentration of same-sex households of any county in Pennsylvania.
Two mayors from the Poconos showcasing their pride on this episode of Pocono Mountains Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Hamill. It may be the final week of Pride Month, but here in the Poconos, pride is something very strong in communities throughout the region. We just saw another exciting Pocono Pride Fest in downtown Stroudsburg with tons of people out to celebrate. On a recent episode of Pocono Mountains Magazine, I met up with two mayors who live pride each day in their respective boroughs, Milford and Stroudsburg. We'll meet those mayors who also happen to represent the LGBTQ+ community in just a bit. The Poconos is a year-round destination for millions, and with 2,400 square miles of mountains, forests, lakes, and rivers, with historic downtowns and iconic family resorts, it's the perfect getaway. You can always find out more at PoconoMountains.com or watch PTN, the Pocono Television Network, streaming live 24/7. Now back to the episode. First, Stroudsburg Mayor Mike Marino, just months into filling the term of now State Rep Tara Probst. Then Mayor Sean Strube from Milford, a veteran in comparison, in his 7th year now. Enjoy.
So Mike Marino, you're the mayor of Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania.
That I am.
How long have you been in that role now?
So December 6th, so going on 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Has it flown by? What's it felt like for you?
It's come naturally to some effect. Has it flown by? No. It's campaign season. Although I was appointed, I have not been elected yet, so it's election season. So definitely, it's a marathon, it feels like.
Yeah, because you gotta go from one thing to the next. It's public service, so not only are you shaking the hands, kissing the baby, but also like there's a job to do. You've got to be the public figurehead for county seat that's busy and stuff always going on. So I mean, what is it that you think you bring to the role? Regardless of just having been appointed, you are now the mayor.
Yeah.
And people look to you.
Absolutely. And quite frankly, I was unaware that people who look like me would look up to me. And it's really humbling when I go to meetings in support of some of our leaders in our area, and they bring their kids with them, and they're like, look, you too can become mayor. Even within my own family. My cousin, she's like, our family can do great things. So not only my ethnicity as the first Latino mayor in Stroudsburg, but also my youth being only 30 years of age, the youngest mayor as well. Being a part of the LGBTQ community, having pride here in the center of our town and having young kids see that they don't have to go to New York or Philadelphia to experience a Pride Festival. They can come here. It's empowering for them. And now they can see someone who is like them as mayor.
But it gets to the point where it's just like, okay, this is validation for all the work that's gone on for all these years.
Yeah.
But there's still more to do, is there not?
There's always more work to do. And the work to get us here would not have been possible without the leadership from our previous mayor and now current state representative, Tara Probst. She went in and did not take no for an answer, and she shook things up. And she fostered an environment that allowed us to have a Pride Festival, a Juneteenth festival, any type of festival you wanted, you could have it here. It wasn't, the status quo was no longer there.
That's important too, because we have this time now where a focus or reattention is on, whether it's folks who live in the metros, work in the metros, and then when they come to experience this area, now this feels familiar to them too. It doesn't feel like they're in a foreign area.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. With Stroudsburg being the heart of Poconos, it also could be said that we're the gateway to Pennsylvania. You come right off the highway, you're directly into our town. Hopefully you find parking. We're a busy town, people love coming here, so find parking early. But we have such walkable streets, we have beautiful streams right next door. restaurants, galleries. There's a multitude of events just happening in Center Square all the time, whether it is a festival or is it just music in the square or the art gallery walk. There's always something going on. And it amazes me how involved the community is outside of just the people who are running it in borough council and in the county, but the business owners get really involved as well.
I mean, that's the true like hope for community, right? Is that people get buy-in and people feel like they're part of it. I'm sure, like just like last June, this June again, with the pride flags that'll go up, the festival that's like probably so near and dear to your heart.
Absolutely.
Everybody's living, breathing, eating, sleeping it. What does that embody, I think, for you in particular, like you as an individual and somebody who's representative of all the individuals who live here in Stratford?
I would say it was about 4 years ago, 5 years ago when just the inkling of the conversation started. And, we've had the Pride Festival going now for 4 years. So that conversation in the beginning, seeing that initial conversation with just a few people in a room and how it's blossomed to 3,000 or 5,000 people coming to the center of a town with over 120 flags being raised in the borough of Stroudsburg, opening the doors for the Multicultural Festival and the Juneteenth Festival and the Latin Festival that followed after the LGBTQ. It's just, it's amazing to see how much it has grown. And it's not just me, because I couldn't do it alone. I had to go out and find, was there even a need? Was there even a community of LGBTQ people here? We had no idea. I had no idea. But turns out there is, and it's massive and it's huge. And, there always will be the negative Nancys out there. You're never going to get rid of those. But the overall majority is, they're happy and they're welcome. And what's Pennsylvania's motto? Pursue your happiness every day. And people are pursuing their happiness, especially at the Pride Festival.
You must see that though too, as you've become representative of not just the festival and the inclusive kind of approach now that the town is taking with all these festivals, but now too as a figurehead. So like you going around town now, how does that feel? What is that experience like?
I'm no longer Michael. I'm Mr. Mayor. No matter where I go. It also feels really good to hold my boyfriend's hand and just walk down the streets. And it's just a wonderful feeling. I never thought in my 30 years that would ever be happening. It's great. And, I've had quite the journey, and I never thought I was going to be mayor. But you open the right amount of doors, you go down the right amount of pathways, and all my friends are just elated to see, like, wow, you made it, I suppose. I mean, my journey's never done, but even for my friends and the people within the restaurants and bars here that I've attended while I was at ESU and still now a resident, they're so happy to have that, they can see their mayor, their actual mayor who lives in their town and eats at their restaurants, sitting with them and just having conversations with them. It's really nice.
Finally, I mean, it is Pride Month when this airs.
Yeah.
Just the overarching pride, the sense of pride, the Pocono pride, the LGBTQIA plus pride, like just all of that.
Uh-huh.
Can you sum it up in some way, shape, or form as to what it provides you with and what it provides your community with?
Yeah.
What is the pride felt during the month of June and the whole year long?
Last year we were able to get the Pride themed Abbey Road. Thankfully, our borough is repaving our courthouse square, and we'll hopefully have that done before Pride Festival. And thank you to the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau, where we received our community impact grant. Safety is our top concern. We're going to be putting in bollards, which prevent vehicles from entering a space. So 35 of those will be going around Courthouse Square. But because of these infrastructure projects, we're unable to put our Pride-themed Abbey Road until after August. But we're going to be making sure that we do that for the month of October, which is very important within the LGBTQ plus community as well. So yeah, although yes, June is Pride Month, but all year round we're ensuring that everyone's represented, and certainly the LGBTQ plus community. We have such a diverse community, and you can see it within the arts here in our town. You can't go a single block without running into a art gallery. And when you go there, you can see all types of different expressions from all different communities. And I think that really is what like breathes life into being prideful of where we live. So yeah, I would just encourage people. We walk our streets. We have beautiful sidewalks and beautiful storefronts and beautiful boutiques. Pride Month doesn't end at the end of June. It's all year round.
Thank you again for taking the time. You've now been mayor quite a few years. Second term?
7 years.
Second full term.
I'm in my second full term, halfway through my second full term. Yeah.
What's that experience been like?
It's been satisfying. As a mayor in a small village, you're very close to your constituents. You're very close to the problems, and lots of the problems are things that are pretty easily solved. People just don't have the right information or don't know where to go, or it's a communication thing. So in that sense, it's satisfying. It's also satisfying because as mayor, I have prioritized community engagement with everybody. That's why we put so much effort into cultural festivals and the civic improvement things, because that's what gets people to cross party lines and to get to know people they might not otherwise. We have our annual community cleanup day, and we're a borough of 1,200 people. We have 175 people show up for the community cleanup day. Every spring go around picking everything up, and when you're picking up cigarette butts with somebody you're diametrically opposed to politically, you just can't hate them. You're both there picking up the cigarette butts. Same with the cultural festivals. We do. My partner produces an outdoor opera event in the Ann Street Park, and last year got about 600 people. And it's outdoors, and people are on the lawn, and a lot of people might have even been the first time they're exposed to opera. But you see everybody in this community. You see families, you see working class people, you see people with their MAGA cap there. That kind of stuff is very unifying for a community. And when you're the mayor of a small village, you have that opportunity to really facilitate and help those things happen. Several years ago, when I ran for re-election, I was appointed to complete a term, then I ran for re-election. And it was a very contentious race. And and it was a divisive for the community. And after the election, my opponent and I started emailing and said, we both really cared about Milford, and what can we do to kind of heal this a little bit? And we started our little Unity in the Community group, which is still going strong, and created kind of a new voice in the community that wasn't political, but it was about how to heal, how to bring together. So those are the things I really enjoy. There's also the stuff with the mayor. We've totally overhauled our police department in so many ways. I think we've professionalized it quite considerably. We've implemented a civil service commission, and working with the council, we have really great members of the council who put the work in, who bring specific expertise and take on. We don't have a big staff in this borough. We have a borough secretary, a borough assistant, 2.5 people in our streets crew, 2 full-time cops, and 5 part-time cops. That's the beginning, middle, and end of our staff. So, so having council members who are really engaged and do the work is important. Now, we also benefit. We have a lot of retired people in Milford. So you have people who have more time to be on the council. One of the problems is if you try to get younger people on the council, well, younger people tend to have kids and families, and you may know what I'm talking about. Coming to 2 and 3 hour meetings in the evening a couple times a week, and having other responsibilities when you also have a full-time job and are also raising a family is tough. But for the most part, I've enjoyed it. There are people who get ugly. There are people who get inappropriate, who are insulting, sometimes semi-threatening. But, you know, I get more of that from people who don't even live in the borough, who are attacking me on social media for what they think I represent to them, than actual constituents in the borough.
Cool. Yeah. But it's got to fill you with some pride, but also too instills in the rest of the community pride through you as a figurehead, right?
I've been in Pike County more than 25 years. And over that time, we have incrementally moved the county, not just the borough, towards local government that is more transparent, more responsive, more accountable. And you know, years ago, it was a very small county and a very small group of people ran things, and that was fine with virtually everybody in the county, right? But then as so many people moved here and we grew so much in the 80s and 90s, the people coming here had different expectations of local government and didn't have the long family histories in local government. So we've really focused on getting more women involved, getting more LGBT people involved. We don't have large minority communities, but we have much more involvement from them than we did before. And that has created a healthier community. I don't think anybody objects to that, even, whatever the old-time conservative, whatever you want to call it. It's very welcoming of participation. And in the borough, I'm not the first gay elected official. We've had gay council members before. We had a gay county commissioner when Jerry Hansen, who owned the Dimmock, was elected. So even though the county is very red and very, very conservative, it has had this history that it, looks past the labels when it gets to local government, and that's important. We also have some historical relevance to LGBT history. Marie Zimmerman, the Zimmerman Farm, that's now part of the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area, she was a famed metal artisan, fine metal work. Her works I think she was the first woman who was a fine metal worker whose work is in the Metropolitan Museum and all sorts of other places. And, all through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, she lived with her partner, who was had been a vaudeville actress at one time, Miss Faye Allen, and they lived openly as a couple here in town. Everyone knew them, was involved. We of course have the bloodstained Lincoln flag at the Collins Museum, and the word gay wasn't used then, but it's pretty clear now, and historians are there are fewer and fewer who disagree with this premise that Lincoln had relationships with men as well as with his wife. And these are things that have also been drawing LGBT tourists to the area, which is nice. The Pike County, since either 2000 or 2010, since 2000, I think, in the census, we've had either the first or second highest concentration of same-sex households of any county in Pennsylvania. We flip back and forth with Philadelphia County. It's a little misleading. We're a very small county. Our population's not even 60,000, so it didn't take that many households to check that box on the census, but we're proud of that. We just had an election, a primary election, and there were, I think, 11 candidates running for 4 or 5 school board spots, maybe 12 candidates. And there were 2 different slates. And one of the members of one of the slates was pretty explicitly anti-gay. They came in last out of all 11 or 12 candidates. So I think that is noticed. We might be the smallest, I'm sure we're the smallest municipality in Pennsylvania. We may be one of the smallest in the country to have its own LGBT center, the Triversity Center, which was started 15, 18 years ago by Patty Tomaszewski and a few others. And it has an office, right across the street here, where it's been for, more than a decade. And they have a wide range of programming. A lot of it is social, just getting people together. We don't have a gay bar or things like that. So, we do pride events and picnics and dances and an alternative prom for kids from the tri-state area. And they've been doing some other social service, support groups and things like that. And they've very much become, a part of our community, an accepted voice within the community. So there are lots of things like that that I see as, evidence of something really healthy going on here. Even while at the same time, we have extremist elements in the county, and some who spew hate pretty regularly, including against LGBT people. For me, I've spent more than 40 years as an activist involved in LGBT things and the AIDS, HIV epidemic, and lots of other causes and efforts. Mostly, focused in New York and on national things. When I came to Pike County, I sort of changed my focus. I really enjoyed working in my own neighborhood, in my own community, and have found that just as satisfying. I like small town living. I like knowing my neighbors. I like knowing that if we had a need or an emergency, there'd be people there for us, just as my partner and I try to be for others. I do think there's something else about LGBT people. That when LGBT people come out, not always, but usually it's in the context of coming out within a community, right, with other people, that they become part of a community and have a consciousness, part of a community, and that becomes very, very important to them. And so I think then, when people, maybe they lived in Chelsea or the Village or wherever, and then they go into rural areas at some point in their life, they move to a small town or a rural area. They want to be part of a community. It doesn't have to be a gay community. They want to be part of a community. So I think there's a disproportionate level of civic and community engagement with LGBT people in their communities because they've learned and understand how important community is.
So what I'm reading, maybe somewhat, is that your pride, especially any time of the year, but is really grounded in the civics and the amount that people want to be part of the solution and not necessarily build up barriers and borders and the like, right?
Yeah, when we talk about Pride Month, I don't think disproportionately proud of being gay, right? That's something that nature, I didn't have any responsibility for it, right? I don't think that being gay in and of itself is any more reason for pride than not being gay or whatever. What I am proud of is what the gay community represents, the values that it promotes, respect, tolerance, inclusion. That gives me a lot of pride. And increasingly the pride events around the country, they're not just about gay people, right? It's become sort of the front line of a broader movement of people who have a vision for the kind of society we can be.
The Poconos region, is rural for the most part, but I think that has not arrived, so to speak, but is kind of taking steps forward in a certain way, and that's got to lead you to think that there is opportunity for more growth, that there's opportunity for more coming together across this whole 4-county region.
Yeah, in the Poconos specifically, Northeast Pennsylvania more generally, we've seen dramatically heightened visibility of LGBT people, just across the board. And that has been a good thing. It's created a community that's contributing and involved. It's created a very different environment for young queer people who before grew up in total isolation here. They had the internet, but they didn't see anybody in their communities. And I think that also led to them not being able to envision a future for themselves here. They just always assumed they'd get out of high school and leave. Now they see elected officials, business owners, faith leaders. They live in a community where they have role models. They never knew a time when they didn't have role models. So I think that is very important. Pennsylvania is the only state in the Northeast United States that does not provide protection against employment discrimination. That remains a problem in Pennsylvania. Hoping that Governor Shapiro is going to be able to get this through the legislature finally, and we can join the rest of the world in providing those protections, which will help make the state more competitive, which will enable some of our very talented young people to stay here instead of feeling like they have to go away without having that risk of termination simply because of whom they love hanging over their heads. So, while we saw lots of changes in urban areas in the 70s and 80s and 90s, the rate of change in those areas isn't as dramatic now as it is in smaller cities and rural areas. So that's exciting to feel like you're on the kind of front line of where we're seeing really good positive changes in the culture and society. Something else that I think has really contributed to our quality of life, but also made Milford and Pike County and the Poconos more generally a more important destination for the LGBTQ community, is our cultural vitality. In the last 25 years, we've begun a film festival, a Readers and Writers Festival, 2 music festivals, an opera festival, contemporary dance festival. We have a chamber music series that goes on year-round. And we're a town of 1,200 people. So all of these things bring people who appreciate the arts, who appreciate music and film and books, to Milford. And they position our community and our county as a place that values the arts, which means we value artists, which means we value people who are maybe outside of the mainstream. So I think our cultural vitality, this wide range of festivals, and then with Milford, the charm of the community. Atlantic Magazine once called Milford the prettiest county seat in America, and it's easy to see why when you go through town. And we have several boutique hotels. We have great restaurants. We have a vibrant culinary scene, and the architecture. We have architecture in Milford by the 5 great American architects of the 19th century: Calvert Vaux, McKim, Mead and White, Richard Morris Hunt, Chester Aldrich, Frederick Law Olmsted Jr. In Milford. I don't know of another city besides Boston, New York, and Philadelphia that have work by all those architects. And of course, there's a reason that goes back to the Gilded Era, and they were spending time here. But these are things that show that we have long had an appreciation, not just for the arts and things like fine design and so on, but also an appreciation for community involvement. There's 24 or 5 years ago, we started the Milford Enhancement Committee, which I chair today. And we've raised $7 or $8 million for the streetscapes, the sidewalks and the pedestrian lights and landscaping and so on. But it's not like we invented that kind of civic improvement. Across from the courthouse, there's a horse watering trough, a big bluestone horse watering trough. And at the top it has VIA 1911. And VIA stood for the Village Improvement Association. And at that time was when the automobile was new, right? And the roads would get rutted and muddy, because before a horse, whatever, but they were really a mess, and it was difficult to drive cars on it. So it became a priority. How do you clean up the streets so you can get the cars through? And one of the reasons was because in front of every business, there were horse troughs, right? They'd get wet and become a mess. And so the Village Improvement Association created this trough in a more controlled area to protect the streets. And on the back of it, it has a water fountain at a human level. And on either side, down at the ground, there are little water fountains for dogs. And then the big bowl in front is for horses. My point is, we've had a culture of civic engagement that goes way back. There's an article about Milford from the 1820s that talks about Milford as an unusually neat and tidy or well-kept town. That was 200 years ago. We had that reputation. Now that article attributed it, it said, perhaps it's because of the French influence. So apparently at that time they were considering the French especially neat and tidy, but we were an early large French influence and French settlement in Milford. So we've had pretty much since the beginning of Milford, valued the built environment and the cultural activities that create a better quality of life. And that continues today, and I see it only expanding as we go forward. We've done a lot of things in the borough that don't get much attention now, but are really going to protect us going forward. The infrastructure improvements, but ordinances. We've banned drive-ins. You can't have any more drive-ins. All those here are grandfathered in, but no more drive-ins. So you're not going to get a McDonald's with a drive-in, coming into Milford. We have put in place a pretty strict ordinance on smoke shops. Some of these communities along the border towns, they're full of smoke shops. Madam Morris, is plagued with 15 or 18 cigarette stores. We restricted where they can go in ways that I think will be attractive over the long term. We put in place an architectural review board to protect the historic character of our commercial district. And these are things that only become more important over time. A lot of this is getting people to think, not between now and the end of the year or next year or the next election, but to think 10 years out, 20 years out, 30 years out, 100 years out. Milford, we're the birthplace of the American conservation movement, and we are very proud of that. And the Gifford Pinchot legacy, the management of the forest. And Pinchot's great contribution was, instead of just cutting down the trees and letting the land erode away, how do you take timber you need on a sustainable basis so you can continue to do that forever? Well, conservation is essentially good planning, right? It's really thinking ahead. It's good planning. Well, good design, whether it's in the structure of our streets or in a building, is also good planning, right? How do you do something that lasts, that maintains and continues to contribute, doesn't, where you don't destroy the resource? So I've always linked those two things, the birthplace of the conservation movement and a really heightened importance of aesthetic and quality of life values.
Two mayors who show so much pride in their communities, Milford and Stroudsburg. Our thanks to both Mayor Strube and Mayor Marino for sharing with Pocono Mountains Podcast for Pride Month. Thanks for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. We'll have a new episode each week, highlighting lots of the fun things you can experience while you're visiting the Poconos. Subscribe to Pocono Mountains Podcast and leave a review and or comment on whatever platform you listen.
For a warm welcome and refreshing wine, Three Hammers Winery really delivers.
The hops at 2nd District Brew Farm are grown right here.
Bright Path Brewing is a small-town craft brewery with a big flavor. Your trail awaits you. Make it whatever you want. Wineries, breweries, or distilleries.
I've always wanted to craft a trail.
Of course you do. Visit PoconoBeverageTrail.com.
We're back. Thanks for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. I'm Jim Hamill. A couple of years ago, we visited Camp Out Mount Nebo, an LGBTQ plus adult camping resort. Camp Out Mount Nebo is pet-friendly. It offers RV, tent, cabin, and cottage rentals. Here's more from that PTN episode. Enjoy.
I'm here at a new campground, Camp Out Mount Nebo in East Stroudsburg. Let's explore it together. Let's go.
So Camp Out is a new camping experience for the LGBTQ community. We offer a ton of entertainment and beautiful views and a beautiful saltwater pool to enjoy. It's for allies of our community as well. Having been to other LGBT campgrounds in Pennsylvania and the area, we definitely recognized the need as they were busy and often hard to get into. So we decided it was a great idea to offer another option. It is membership based. The membership costs $35 a year.
Members have to be 21 and older.
For years of being a camper myself and enjoying the beautiful Pocono Mountains, me and CJ have looked around for places. We kind of had the idea to start a campground.
And being so close to major cities in the Northeast is certainly a plus.
We're about 75, 80 miles out of Manhattan or Philadelphia.
Our campground is 68 acres on rolling hills with beautiful views of the mountains. We offer tent camping, we offer RV sites, we have luxury deluxe cabins with full air conditioning and a full bathroom, and we also have rustic cottages. Our season starts April 15th, and we usually run till about November 1st.
All the major holidays are celebrated at Camp Out Mount Nebo throughout the season.
On big holiday weekend, we have a pianist coming in from the West Village of Manhattan to do a session in the piano bar between live musicians that come to visit, piano bar where people can sing along or be featured as a soloist, karaoke now and then, DJs if you'd like to hit the dance floor, drag shows. There's a lot going on.
This is more than a campground. It's a place for the community to feel safe and celebrated.
I just like to see people have a fun, safe place to come to that they can enjoy themselves and party safely and just have a good time.
This whole experience is a new experience for me. I haven't been big in the community, and it's definitely, I felt very welcome.
We enjoyed downtown Stroudsburg and everything it has to offer. Plus we enjoy the Delaware Water Gap and all of the trails and hiking we can do there too. You can book online on our website at PoconoCampout.com. You could also call right in and we can help you book a site.
And walk-ins are welcome too.
We celebrate everybody no matter what. So they are welcome here and they will be welcomed here and they should have a good time.
What makes it more than a lot of campgrounds is the different options, It's not just one thing going on at a time. On a weekend, you'll have multiple things you can choose from, and all of them a little different. Or like a community campfire even, which is a little more relaxed, and sometimes we even have like an acoustic guitarist strumming.
Remember to check online about all the fun things that they have here in Camp Out Mount Nebo. And don't forget to tell your community about it. Cristina Luna for Pocono Television Network.
I wanted to leave you with a statement of belonging adopted by the Pocono Mountains Visitors Bureau this year. You can find it at poconomountains.com/DEI. The Pocono Mountains Visitors Bureau affirms that everyone belongs in the Pocono Mountains. We believe that respecting all people and celebrating our differences makes us better neighbors and partners for the benefit of our entire community. The PMVB welcomes everyone, no matter where their journey begins, what their abilities are, or how they identify. And we're committed to continuing to celebrate and champion a more inclusive and equitable community and destination. The PMVB recognizes that diversity enriches the experiences of our destination. We embrace the diversity of our community and strive to represent that in our organization's hiring, programming, marketing, and outreach efforts so that we'll thrive together in the Poconos. We hope you enjoyed Pocono Mountains Podcast. Please remember to subscribe anywhere podcasts are available. Come visit us in the Pocono Mountains. Plan your trip today.